Okay, so you want to own a bakery. The smell of fresh bread at 6 a.m., a little glass case full of croissants, a line out the door on Saturday morning, regulars who know your name, and the quiet pride of making something real with your hands. That's the picture. That's the dream almost everyone falls in love with. Here's what the dream doesn't show you. The oven that costs more than a car. The flour bill that arrives whether or not a single customer walks in. The croissant that takes 3 days and dozens of steps to make, sells for $4, and leaves you almost nothing. And the number that quietly runs this entire business. A typical bakery keeps just 4 to 9 cents of profit on every dollar it takes in. That's one of the thinnest margins in the entire food industry. A bakery isn't a baking business. It's a spoilage business that happens to smell like heaven. Everything you make starts dying the moment it leaves the oven. And that single fact controls whether you make money or slowly go broke. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why the busiest bakery in town can still be the one that closes its doors, and the specific thing the survivors do that the dreamers never figure out. Before we count a single dollar, you need to know that the word bakery hides at least 4 completely different businesses. A retail bakery sells from a glass case to whoever walks past, the one you picture. A wholesale bakery bakes for cafes, restaurants, and grocery stores, trading the pretty display for raw volume. A cottage bakery runs out of a home kitchen, the cheapest way in, with a hard legal ceiling on how big it can ever grow. And a cafe-bakery hybrid quietly survives on something that isn't bread at all. Hold on to that last one, because it's the whole secret, and we're coming back to it. These 4 share a smell, and almost nothing else on a spreadsheet. This is going to focus on the one most people romanticize, the retail bakery with the display case out front. You think the expensive part is the ovens. It's part of it. But the real shock is what it takes to turn an empty box of a building into a kitchen a health inspector will actually sign off on. Let's walk through it. A single commercial deck or convection oven runs $10,000 to $40,000, and a serious bakery needs more than one. A commercial mixer, the kind that can knead heavy dough for 12 hours straight without burning out, runs $5,000 to $12,000. Proofers, dough retarders, walk-in refrigerators, and freezers stack another $15,000 to $30,000 on top of that. Then comes the part nobody budgets for correctly. Ventilation, a proper hood, a grease trap, and the separate hand sinks the health code demands. $20,000 to $50,000 before you've baked a single loaf. Add the display cases, the point-of-sale system, the furniture, and the sign out front, and that's another $15,000 to $40,000. Now add the lease deposit, usually 3 to 6 months of rent up front, plus licenses, permits, insurance, your opening inventory, and payroll for the weeks before you make your first sale. Stack it all together, and opening a retail bakery runs about $70,000 if you cut every possible corner, and $250,000 to well over $500,000 for a real storefront on a street with actual foot traffic. And here's the punchline. You haven't sold a single baguette yet. Now here's what makes a bakery different from almost any other business on earth. Walk into a hardware store and the inventory just sits on the shelf. A hammer that doesn't sell today sells next month for the same price. A bakery's inventory starts dying in hours. A baguette is stale by dinner. A croissant loses its shelf appeal within a day. Whatever doesn't sell by closing isn't tomorrow's sale. It's a write-off, a loss, and a trash bag. Your entire inventory has the shelf life of a cut flour. And this creates a trap that runs every single day the doors are open. Bake too little and you sell out by noon, but an empty case turns away every afternoon customer and silently bleeds your revenue because nobody wants to buy from a bakery that looks picked over. Bake too much and you get that gorgeous, Instagram-perfect full display, and then you throw a chunk of it into the dumpster at closing. Every morning, the baker is placing a bet on exactly how much a city of strangers will want to eat that day. And a typical bakery guesses wrong often enough that it throws away 4 to 10% of everything it makes, straight out of a margin that was already razor thin. Think about that. A business running on 4 to 9 cent margins is throwing 4 to 10% of its product in the garbage. The waste alone can be bigger than the profit. Later, I'll show you the one move the surviving bakeries use to turn last night's unsold bread into their highest margin product on the menu. Most owners toss that exact money in the trash every night and never even notice. Now let's talk about the ingredients, because this is where the numbers play a trick on you. Flour, water, yeast, salt, butter. The raw food cost on a loaf of bread is genuinely cheap, often just 15 to 25% of the price you sell it for. A baker looks at that and thinks, this is a gold mine. Here's why it isn't. Let's break one croissant down on our fingers. The butter, flour, and yeast inside a $4 croissant might cost 60 or 70 cents. Sounds incredible, until you count everything the price tag doesn't show. That croissant took a baker mixing dough, laminating it with layer after layer of butter, letting it rest overnight, rolling it, shaping it, proofing it, and baking it. Dozens of touches, spread across 2 or 3 days. That's the killer nobody sees. Labor. Bread and pastry are not really made of flour. They're made of hours. And the baker who puts in those hours clocks in at 3 or 4 in the morning, every morning, while the rest of the city sleeps. A skilled baker is expensive, and finding a reliable one who'll accept those hours is one of the single hardest problems in the whole industry. Labor routinely eats 25 to 40% of a bakery's revenue, and for labor-intensive products like a proper baguette or laminated pastry, it runs even higher than that. So the cheap ingredient cost is a mirage. That 60-cent croissant is expensive. You just can't see the expense because it's measured in someone's time and a 3 a.m. alarm clock. And then there's the oven itself, which does something no other retail fixture does. It burns money continuously. Commercial ovens run for hours every day, and energy is a real line on the bill. Gas, electricity, the whole HVAC system fighting the heat those ovens throw off. Even when the bakery is empty and quiet, the meter is spinning. So let's put the revenue side together, because this is where the whole illusion collapses. The average bakery sale is small, $5 to $15 a ticket. To cover the rent, the ovens, the payroll, and the daily spoilage, you need serious volume flowing through that door. But the volume never arrives evenly. Saturday morning is a wall of people 3 deep at the counter. Tuesday at 3 in the afternoon is a ghost town. And yet the rent runs the same, the wages run the same, and the ovens are still warm. You are paying for peak capacity all week to serve a rush that shows up for maybe 8 hours out of the whole week. Let's run the real numbers on a modest shop. Say it does $400,000 a year in sales. Right in the normal range for a small American bakery. Food cost takes 25 to 30%, so call it $120,000 gone to ingredients. Labor takes another 30%, $120,000 more. Rent takes 10 to 15%. Then utilities, insurance, spoilage, repairs, and equipment financing chew through most of what's left. What actually lands in the owner's pocket at the bottom is that infamous 4 to 9% net margin. On $400,000 in sales, that's roughly $16,000 to $36,000 a year for 60-hour weeks, starting at 3 in the morning, standing on a concrete floor. Many bakery owners quietly make less per hour than the employees they're paying at the counter, and they're the ones who took on the debt. That's why the longest line in town tells you almost nothing about whether a bakery is actually healthy. The crowd at the case is the part everyone sees. The margin underneath it is the part that decides who survives. And the two have almost nothing to do with each other. And remember those paper-thin margins? Here's the twist that turns them from thin to dangerous. Because those numbers I just gave you assume a normal week. Nothing in a bakery is a normal week. Let me show you two versions of the same shop. In a good week, the custom orders roll in. Birthday cakes, a wedding, a corporate catering tray for an office party. Those custom cakes carry 50 to 70% margins, wildly better than bread, and they quietly carry the entire week into the black. The weather's nice, Saturday is packed, spoilage stays low, everyone shows up for their shift. The shop makes money. Now the bad week. Your main convection oven dies on a Wednesday. $2,000 to fix, plus an entire lost day of production you can never get back. That same week, the price of butter spikes. And this isn't hypothetical. In 2025, global butter prices hit record highs. US butter climbed to nearly $5 a pound, and in New Zealand, it jumped over 40% in a matter of months. For a bakery, laminating butter into everything, an ingredient swing like that can quietly erase your margin overnight, and you usually can't raise your croissant price fast enough to keep up. On top of that, your baker quits with no notice, so now you are the one waking up at 3 a.m. And then it rains all weekend and washes out your single best traffic day. Spoilage climbs, revenue drops, and the exact same shop that printed money last week closes this week in the red. The gap between those 2 weeks is the entire business. And look at what drives it: the weather, the global price of butter, a machine breaking, one employee deciding whether or not to show up. Almost none of it is inside your control. A bakery isn't just low margin. It's low margin and volatile at the same time, which is the most dangerous combination a small business can have. So here's the uncomfortable truth, the one that reframes everything. In most bakeries that actually make money, the most profitable thing in the building isn't the bread. It's the coffee, it's the custom cakes, it's the wholesale contracts. The bread is the bait. The bread is the marketing that fills the room. The profit is hiding somewhere else entirely. A bakery that survives purely on selling loaves out of a display case is, increasingly, a vanishing species. And this is the answer to what I promised you at the start. That unsold bread at the end of the night. The survivors don't throw it away. They turn day-old loaves into croutons, breadcrumbs, bread pudding, and French toast brunch specials. Last night's write-off becomes today's high-margin plate, sold at full price. That's the move most owners miss. And then the smart operators go further. They add coffee, which carries 70 to 80% margins and turns a $2 cup into the most profitable item on the menu. They add custom cakes for the 50 to 70% margins. They sign wholesale contracts that deliver steady, predictable money every month instead of praying for walk-in traffic. In other words, they stop behaving like a bakery and start behaving like a business that happens to bake. So can a bakery make you rich? Honestly, probably not through bread alone. The romance of flour and fire is real, and I'm not here to kill it. But the economics are brutal. Margins measured in pennies, an inventory that dies in hours, labor costs baked invisibly into every single loaf, and a butter price you don't control. The bakeries that last figured out the secret early. The bread gets people through the door. The coffee, the cakes, and the contracts are what actually pay the rent. The smell is the advertising. The margin lives somewhere else. That beautiful line out the door on Saturday morning, real, worth being proud of. But it was never the thing keeping the lights on. So here's my question for you. 9 out of 10 people who dream about opening a bakery think the bread is the business. It never was. Would you have made the same mistake? Or did you already see where the real money was hiding? Tell me in the comments.